Ladies and gentlemen, friends and viewers, welcome back to our channel. Today I want to share with you an incredible story that will leave you speechless. So make sure you stay tuned until the very end, because what happens next will absolutely blow your mind. He's caught solving a $200 million problem in seconds. What the CEO did next shocked the entire company. The city outside was asleep, blanketed in silence. But inside the penthouse of Ethan Cross, lights still burned. It was nearly 2 a.m., and the CEO of one of the most powerful tech firms in the country was pacing his study in frustration. The launch of a flagship project, one worth over $200 million, had ground to a halt. For weeks, the system had been malfunctioning. No one could figure out why. His engineers, consultants, even the best freelancers he could hire, none had found the answer. Time was running out, and so was his patience. In the quiet kitchen, Ethan moved to pour himself another coffee. But just as he reached for the pot, a faint rhythmic clicking sound caught his attention. He froze. It was the sound of someone typing. He turned toward the hallway, the sound growing louder as he approached the study. No one should have been in there, certainly not at this hour. He pushed the door open, and there she was, Lily, the new maid. Blonde, young, polite, and quiet. She had been working at the penthouse for just under 2 weeks. Ethan had barely exchanged more than a few words with her. But now she was sitting at his desk, typing furiously, eyes fixed on the glowing screen. "Oh, what the hell are you doing?" Ethan's voice cracked through the silence, sharp and commanding. Lily jolted upright, her hands flying away from the keyboard. She looked like a child caught somewhere she shouldn't be. I'm sorry," she stammered, stepping back from the chair. I didn't mean to. "You're not supposed to touch that," Ethan said, moving toward the desk. His expression was unreadable, but his voice carried an edge. "I know. I really am sorry," Lily said quickly. "I just saw something that looked wrong. I wasn't trying to interfere." Ethan leaned over the screen, annoyed, until his eyes scanned the lines she had touched. Then he stopped. The section she had been working on had plagued his team for weeks. Somehow, in just minutes, she had corrected it. Not only that, but the structure, her changes. They were clean, elegant, flawless. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. He double-checked, triple-checked. She was right. His mind reeled. "How did you even know what you were looking at?" "I studied computer science," Lily said, her voice quiet. "A while ago. I had to drop out." Ethan stared at her. "Where?" he asked. "MIT," she replied. "But I didn't graduate. My mum got sick. We lost our home. I took whatever work I could find." There was no pride in her voice, just fact. Ethan looked at her again, really looked. She didn't just fix a problem. She saw something his team of engineers had missed for weeks, and she had done it without asking for anything in return. Lily stood there, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. "I didn't mean to step out of line. I'll leave now if you want." He didn't answer right away. He was still staring at the screen. "You rewrote that entire function," he said eventually. "That one mistake was costing us a fortune." Lily shifted awkwardly. "I only changed a few things. I didn't mean to touch anything important." Ethan let out a breath and slowly turned toward her. "You just saved a multi-million-dollar project." Her eyes widened. "I did?" He nodded once, still stunned. "I'm sorry," she said again, voice trembling. Ethan shook his head, this time more slowly. "Don't apologize." Lily blinked, unsure of what to say. He stepped back from the desk, running a hand through his hair. The room was quiet again, but different now, charged. After a long pause, he looked at her. "You're not just a maid," he said softly. Lily gave a weak smile. "No," she whispered, "but it's all I am right now." Ethan nodded slowly. "Maybe not for long. And with that, he turned and walked out of the room, his mind racing with thoughts none louder than this. He had just witnessed something extraordinary, and he had no intention of letting it go unnoticed. Ethan Cross had made his career reading people. He could spot arrogance disguised as confidence, mediocrity hidden behind flashy degrees, and ambition fueled by nothing but ego. But Lily Brooks, she was a puzzle that refused to be solved at a glance. The next morning, while the city below buzzed with suits and stress, Ethan sat in his office with his assistant's report in hand. There was little to find. No college degree, no official certifications, a few short-term jobs, waitressing, retail, janitorial work. Currently working for a domestic staffing agency part-time, she lived in a modest apartment on the edge of the city in a neighborhood most executives avoided. But one detail stood out like a red flag. Lily had once been enrolled at MIT Computer Science, top 10% of her class, then withdrawn. No reason listed. That alone explained everything and nothing. Later that evening, Ethan found her wiping the marble stairs outside his study. She worked with focus, her hands swift but precise, as if even dust didn't deserve to stay where it wasn't supposed to be. "How long have you been doing this?" he asked casually. Lily looked up, startled to see him there. "Cleaning, a few years on and off. And before that..." She paused, then gave a small smile. "School. What happened?" he asked. She hesitated. "Life. My dad made some bad investments, lost everything. My mom's health declined, bills piled up. I dropped out to help." He nodded. "MIT, right?" Her eyes widened. "You looked me up." "I look up everyone who touches my code," he said, only half joking. Lily gave a soft, resigned laugh. "It feels like a lifetime ago." Ethan studied her face. She wasn't bitter, just tired. The kind of fatigue that did not come from mopping floors, but from carrying too much for too long. That night, after she left, Ethan opened a folder from a lower-level analyst team, one he knew she might come across while tidying his desk. Inside, he inserted a deliberately flawed snippet of code. It wasn't overly complex, but tricky enough to trip up someone without a trained eye. The next morning, the file was back in place with one handwritten note tucked neatly inside. "Fixed validation loop error. Hope that's okay." No signature, just quiet brilliance. She had solved it in less than 10 minutes. He did not say a word, but from that day forward, he started noticing everything. The way she adjusted his grandfather clock when it ran 4 minutes fast without being asked. The way she organized the books in his study by subject, then by author. The way she paused for a moment when passing his late mother's photo on the hallway table, gently wiping the frame as if it mattered more than the glass beneath it. She was invisible to most, but Ethan saw her, and it was becoming harder to look away, not just because she had a rare intellect, but because she never acted like she did. In a world full of people who demanded to be seen, Lily hid her light under layers of humility and survival. He caught her once, humming softly while folding laundry, completely unaware that he had been standing there watching her for nearly a full minute. There was something heartbreakingly serene about her, like someone who had made peace with the fact that no one would ever applaud her. That night, as he sat alone in his home office, staring at the latest crash report from the development team, his mind wandered back to the line she had written just days earlier. Not just the correction, but the confidence behind it. She had seen what 10 senior engineers had missed, and yet here she was, scrubbing sinks and emptying trash bins. Ethan leaned back in his chair and whispered aloud, "You don't belong in that uniform." But he knew Lily wouldn't be the one to take it off. If anything were going to change, it would have to start with him. Ethan Cross was not a man who believed in luck. He believed in systems, structure, testing, and data, and right now, the only data point he could not fully explain was Lily. So he began running his own tests. Quietly, subtly, he continued slipping coded puzzles and logic traps into files she might stumble across during her cleaning shifts. Sometimes left open on his screen, sometimes half buried in a pile on his desk. They weren't easy. Each one grew more advanced than the last. And every time, without fail, she solved them. Each correction came with the same humble pencil note written in the margin. Not sure if this helps, but maybe. Or sorry if this is wrong, just a thought. She'd never signed her name, never claimed credit, never asked questions. She just helped. Ethan stopped trying to convince himself it was coincidence. He started staying home more often, citing remote meetings or late-night reports. But in truth, it was because he had begun looking forward to the soft knock on his office door, or the quiet way she'd refill his coffee without needing to be asked, or the quick, almost apologetic smile she gave before vanishing down the hall. Sometimes he would manufacture little reasons to interact with her. "My printer's jammed again. Could you bring another notebook, the ones with the grid paper? The coffee maker's acting up." She never questioned why a billionaire CEO needed so much assistance with mundane tasks. She just nodded, stepped in, and somehow made it all work. One night, Ethan sat at his desk reviewing a team diagnostic report. The entire back-end system was still unstable. His lead engineers were blaming corrupted modules, but no one could agree on the source. He heard Lily enter quietly behind him, wiping a table near the corner. She glanced briefly at his screen and paused. Ethan, pretending to read, didn't say a word. Then softly, she spoke. "I think it's not the code." Ethan looked up. "Excuse me?" She stepped closer, almost hesitant. "The issue? It's probably not in the code itself. It's how the data is being routed. Something's clogging the flow between the security module and the data cache. It's like a traffic jam caused by too many verification calls." He stared at her. That exact hypothesis had been floated and dismissed in the first week of analysis. His entire engineering team had moved on to other theories, but Lily had said it with a kind of quiet certainty that demanded attention. "You're suggesting the bottleneck is in the access permissions queue?" he asked carefully. She nodded. "The more layers of encryption you add without restructuring the priority, the more likely the calls stack and time out. The system starts blocking its own progress." Ethan turned fully toward her now. "How do you know that?" Lily flushed. "I built a system like that once in school. It froze up under load. Took me a week to realize I was verifying everything twice." He said nothing for a moment. Then he swiveled back to the screen, opened the diagnostic matrix, and began scanning the input streams. Sure enough, the lag corresponded almost perfectly with the security ping intervals. His jaw tightened. 3 weeks. My entire team has been chasing the wrong trail for 3 weeks. Lily stepped back as if afraid she had overstepped. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything." "No." He cut in, standing slowly. "Don't apologize. You were right." She looked down, biting her lip. Ethan exhaled. "You just did in 30 seconds what $1 million in salaries could not." Lily shook her head. "I just saw the pattern." "You saw what no one else could," he replied, his voice quieter. "Now. And you said it out loud. That matters." Their eyes met across the dimly lit room. In that moment, Ethan realized something. He had underestimated her, not because she was invisible, but because he had never thought to truly see her. And now he could not look away. Ethan waited until the end of the week. Lily had just finished vacuuming the hallway outside his study when he stepped into the doorway holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You have a moment?" he asked. She looked startled but nodded. "Of course." He led her into the room and gestured toward the chair across from his desk. She hesitated, clearly uncomfortable, sitting in a space that until now had only belonged to silence and distance. "I wanted to ask you something," he said as he sat. "Something important." Lily shifted in her seat, her posture cautious. "Okay." I'd like you to consider working with me. Not as a cleaner, as a technical assistant. Temporary, flexible hours. Just help me troubleshoot some things you already understand better than most of my engineers." She stared at him, stunned. "You want me to work for you?" "You already are," Ethan said with a soft smile. "Just without the title or the pay." Lily looked down. "Mr. Cross, I'm flattered. But I can't. I'm not qualified. I never even finished my degree. I'm just—" "Don't," he interrupted, his tone firmer now. "Don't let that uniform define you." She blinked, caught off guard. "You've solved critical errors. You've seen patterns no one else did, and you never once asked for credit. That's not just intelligence. That's integrity. That's rare." Lily's lips parted, but no words came out. She stared at her hands, folded tightly in her lap. "I won't pressure you," Ethan added gently. "But if you ever change your mind, the offer stands." She nodded once, almost imperceptibly. That night, he left a folder on his desk with notes from a broken beta test. It was intentional, placed where only Lily would notice. In the morning, the test was fixed. A new function was scribbled in pencil on the edge of the page. Ethan didn't say anything, and neither did she. It became an unspoken routine. At night, Lily would quietly fix what no one else could. By morning, Ethan would report progress to the executive team, shielding her name, her presence, her brilliance, not out of shame, out of protection. She wasn't ready, but he was willing to wait. One morning, Lily entered the study to find the room empty, but on the desk was a small tray, a sandwich, fruit, a glass of juice, nothing extravagant, just thoughtful. Beside it was a handwritten note. "Don't skip breakfast just because you're always thinking of others." She smiled, truly smiled, and for the first time in a long while, her hands trembled. Not from exhaustion, but from something warmer, gratitude, and the faintest shimmer of hope. She ate in silence. That night, she left a sticky note on the edge of the laptop. "Thank you. It was perfect." Ethan found it hours later, and something in him shifted, not because of what she wrote, but because she had finally written back. The tension in the boardroom was thick, almost electric. Ethan stood at the head of the long, gleaming table, flanked by department heads and senior engineers, each more impatient than the last. The latest project, one that had been hemorrhaging millions, was now back on track, stable, functional, weeks ahead of the new deadline, and no one could explain how. They had reviewed the update logs. Ethan had delivered the fixes himself, but the logic, the elegance of the solution didn't match the hands that had typed it. "Ethan," one board member said, arms folded, "we appreciate your leadership, but someone wrote those lines of code. We'd like to meet this anonymous asset you keep referencing." Murmurs of agreement followed. "I'm not comfortable parading someone who prefers to stay private," Ethan said evenly. "Let's focus on the success." "This company doesn't run on ghosts," another cut in. "We deserve to meet the person who saved it." Ethan's jaw tightened. He had promised himself and Lily that her identity would remain protected, that he would not expose her before she was ready. But this wasn't just about secrecy anymore. It was about honor, about giving credit where it was long overdue. After a long pause, he finally nodded. "I'll arrange it." The next morning, Lily arrived at headquarters in her usual uniform. Black slacks, plain blouse, hair pulled back neatly. Ethan had asked her to come in early just to tidy the main floor. She had no idea what was waiting. The conference hall buzzed with anticipation. Executives and senior staff gathered in formal wear. The lights dimmed as Ethan took the stage. "Before we begin today's quarterly briefing," he said, "I'd like to share a story. Not about numbers or projections, but about a person." The room quieted. A few months ago, this company faced the biggest threat to its future since its founding. A core system failure was bleeding us. Solutions were attempted, millions spent, nothing worked. He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd. And then out of nowhere, a miracle happened. A fix, a flawless solution, not from our labs, not from our engineers. He gestured toward the back of the hall. Lily stood there holding a cleaning cloth and a bucket, frozen. "Would you join me, Lily?" She blinked, stunned. A few heads turned. Some whispered. Slowly, hesitantly, she walked toward the stage. Ethan extended his hand to help her up. "This," he said, "is Lily Brooks. She was hired to sweep our floors. Instead, she rewrote the very code that saved our company." Dead silence, then one clap, then another. And suddenly, the hall erupted into applause, a standing ovation. Lily stood beside Ethan, clearly overwhelmed. "I didn't mean to. I was just," she began, her voice trembling. Ethan gently handed her a mic. "You don't need."